son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. This week, NASCAR goes west to Sin City. It's Vegas, baby, for the Pennzoil 500. Liehr, it's so good to be back talking NASCAR, buddy. How are things going?
Good, brother. How you doing this weekend?
Doing wonderful. Can't wait for this race. Stages are at laps 80, lap 160, and then they'll go the final 107 laps all the way to the finish.
Fun fact is when you're in Vegas and you're low on cash, play the pass line, which is a great way to make your money last. Assuming that the table is not cold, of course.
If the Learjet is in Vegas and rolling, the pass line pays off. You also want to buy some numbers if Lear's on the table. Usually it's hot. Like, the man can play craps like none other. Good times going to Vegas with you, brother.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget about those penny slots early in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Like, the guy has a special penny slots that you have to walk to a special casino. And every time we make money on these things, every time, it's crazy. So if you want that tip, you're going to have to message Liehr personally to get him to divulge his penny slot secrets. Weather this weekend.
I will say that the location of close to where it is usually sponsoring a car in NASCAR. So.
It might be by the McDonald's.
Right.
Weather should be sunny this weekend with temps around the mid-60s when we go racing at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. We're on the main network this week. All right, Liehr, do you have it in you to do an official burning rubber to get us going this week?
I'll try to do my best, brother. Burning rubber, Las Vegas, rolling the crap style, baby!
All right, buddy, if you're having to bet on a driver to burn some rubber this week, who's it going to be?
Man, it's awesome. I love watching the races here at Las Vegas. They are, especially the last couple of days with the truck race on Friday and then today with the Xfinity race. I know we had some weather go into play there today for qualifying for Xfinity and the Cup boys practicing on happy hour. But, man, what a place to have a race. Basically, the house where gambling is built. I mean, you can't go wrong with going to a race in Las Vegas, and that's definitely on my bucket list here. And I would love to do that here in the next year or two, is go out there and watch a race and hang out in Las Vegas. But I'm definitely going to be gambling this weekend, brother. And so your eyes out there, it may not be a gamble, but in my eyes, based off of today's and yesterday's practice times, I'm going to be rolling with MTJ and the boys in the number 19. It's hard to say, JGR, but they've had a pretty good weekend last week in Atlanta with that second place finish there behind Brad Keselowski when they started from the 9th position. But this week at Las Vegas, they didn't obviously have a very good start off to the weekend as they had hoped. They're starting from the 23rd position for tomorrow's race. Last week's performance, though, proved to me that they still have that speed in their car, even though they moved over to JGR from Furniture Row. But this is also just tells you how strong that relationship is between MTJ and Cole Pernstar. He was 16th fastest in practice on Friday in practice 1 and 30th in happy hour practice today. So those numbers aren't strong by any means. Now, these numbers might, scare some people and some owners rostering MTJ this weekend, but with his place differential possibilities and his recent success here at Las Vegas with 14 starts, he's got one win, which came in 2017. That's the infamous Kyle Busch, Joey Logano fight on pit road there. But he's got 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s. He has an average finish of 11th and a driver rating of 132, which is the best out of any driver that races here. So I know this is a different package, obviously, that we're dealing with now, but you cannot deny the starting position, the driver, the equipment, and the recent success that they've had is a recipe for goodness for Sunday. And, when it comes to MTJ, I mean, I don't put anything past him. A lot of people, may cut him out and say, well, their times and all that aren't looking that great this weekend. But like I've said, man, it's just one of those guys that you cannot count out. He's going to be a guy that is going to be there at the end. Now, is he going to be in there and actually lead some laps and dominate points with that place differential? That I don't know. But this weekend is just going to be a question mark, just like last weekend. So he's also the fifth highest on the board when it comes to salary at $10,100. So, he's not going to be ruining your salary with like Harvick will. But at the same time, it's a guy that has great place differential possibilities, but also could dominate as well. So I definitely love me some Martin Truex Jr. this weekend.
I completely agree. I'm in love with the Martin Truex Jr. play, but I think there are a ton of great place differential plays this week. And I think you hit on my favorite, but you got Keselowski starting 19th at 11,400, Bowyer starting 17th at 9,000, Almirola starting 25th at 8,600, Erik Jones starting 18th at 8,400, Kurt Busch starting 28th at 8,200. And the reason why I'm listing these guys off is none of them qualify as value plays, right? Like, I wouldn't even qualify Suarez, who's starting 22nd at 7,700. Like, that's another great place differential play. Newman, 29th at 7,200. Billy Byron, 20th, 6,600. And Chris Buescher starting 27th at 6,500. All these guys, in my opinion, are phenomenal place differential plays. Now, the question that you're going to have to ask this week is whether or not you think it's going to be about place differential, a series of dominators, or what that right combination is. And I personally don't have the right answer, as my lineups are all over the place trying to figure out who's going to dominate this race. Liehr, I'm going to let you talk about that group of guys, and then I'll give you guys my burning rubber pick this week.
Well, it's hard to deny the fact of, Brad Keselowski 2 weeks in a row starting from the 19th position. I do have a little bit of a personal angst against him after last week. With 20 laps to go, and I did recommend Joey Logano as my burning rubber pick last week. I was sitting in first place in the big contest with two lineups, number one, tied at number one, and I was sweating bullets. And then on top of that, with them both being Kurt Busch and Joey Logano, one lap up on the field, they could come in, take their time, not have to rush through, their pit stop. And what do you know? Joey Logano, 3 laps after they do the restart, is already saying, I'm feeling issues with the tire. And it's just like, oh, my God.
Yeah, dude, how did they, have a loose wheel? That was unforgivable. I feel so bad for you, dude. You were winning $75,000+, and it just all went away because they couldn't tighten lug nuts on a wheel. I've been there. I've had it happen to me, and it is soul-crushing. I feel for you, dude. I really do.
But, and then, just on top of that, though, the perseverance that Keselowski showed with being sick and everything else, and, just came out of nowhere and came to dominate. And, dude, that was awesome. It was an awesome job by him and that number 2 team, and he's definitely going to be a play in my book again this weekend. It's hard to deny the fact with him starting from that 19th position. It's just a salary question being at 11,400. I would say out of all of those guys, my favorite two, besides Martin Truex Jr., is definitely going to be Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch at his price point of $8,200 and starting from the 28th position. This is also his, just like Kyle Busch, but this is his home track. Both of those boys are from the Las Vegas area, so you always got to give the nod to a guy that pretty much knows that the track like the back of his hand. And he also surprised me quite a bit last week how well he performed with that third place finish with the Chip Ganassi Racing with his second race with them this season. But I'm definitely going to be all over Kurt Busch. I just have a feeling me, you, and everybody else out there is going to be on Kurt Busch as well, just because it's such a great price point with a guy with place differential. And then on top of that, he was top 5 in 10 lap averages. And same thing with Aric Almirola, $8,600, starting from that 25th position. Also had a top 5 10 lap average. And, Stewart-Haas equipment. Can't deny that fact. So, I'm definitely going to be all over those two gentlemen for sure, and sprinkle in some other guys as well.
And this is your weekly reminder that that's the same car Danica was driving a couple of years ago. Wow. All right. Anything else you want to add before I get on to my pick?
No, and then, Clint Boyer, obviously, him as well from that 17th position. Hard to deny the fact that, he's definitely a top 10 car in that equipment. It's just going to be a whole salary point because it's going to be hard to start fitting all these guys into your lineup. But other than that, man, I think the Suarez play may be a little bit sneakier than most of them because I think he's going to be one that a lot of people may overlook. And then Ryan Newman, same thing with that gentleman, starting from the 29th position. $7,200 for a guy that is definitely probably a top 15 car. I will take that all day. So just be cognizant of that. And one thing I do want to say is a guy that took a huge dip, and I kind of like him too, as a guy to be a little sneaky and somebody that may get overlooked as well. Maybe not now that I'm mentioning him, but Matt DiBarito, starting from that 26th position, and he took a huge salary cut from last week. He's down to $6,700 instead of $7,600 that he was last week.
Absolutely, dude. I was still a little burned by his performance last week, so that's why I left him off the list. I shouldn't have, but you know how it goes. Anyways, guys, my brother rubber pick this week should surprise no one. It is one Kyle Rowdy Busch, as he goes this weekend for the sweep, the trifecta, if you will. He's $11,900, which will definitely ding your salary this week, especially with all these great place differential plays. But I think you may want to pay for him. We have seen Rowdy pull off this trifecta before, where he wins the Truck, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series. It's happened. It seems like it happens once a season, right? I think this is where he does it, if he's going to do it this year. The only issue that I have is that this isn't usually one of his best tracks. He does have a win here, though, but it's all the way back in 2009. He's also failed to lead more than 56 laps here, which means that he's not in that traditional dominator cut that we're looking for. But, man, I don't like any of the other cars up front. Harvick looks slow in practice. Your other option is Denny Hamlin, unless you're really a believer that this new aero package is going to result in Austin Dillon or Daniel Hemrick, who are the top two cars in both practices. I don't see that happening. I personally see Rowdy taking control. I think he's going to lead more laps than he ever has here and get a win. That's what my gut's telling me, even though the statistics don't say that. Liehr, do you like any of these cars to dominate this weekend? It's really kind of messed up, in my opinion.
Oh, without a doubt. All intuition should tell you Kevin Harvick, who shouldn't be on the pole, by the way, after qualifying on Friday, that was a whole conniption fit within itself. But
he's clearly at the line when before time expires. But whatever. That's only the rule NASCAR laid out. But
Well, the other crazy part, man, about the qualifying was when I was watching it, all these cars, they get a 10-minute window or whatever, and then all these cars start getting out on pit road, and some of them are parking right outside their pit box, and other ones are moving around, and then you got five guys side by side, and who's going to go first, and this and that. And it's before you know it, one of these races where that's going to happen, somebody is going to slip up, and somebody's going to get in a wreck before qualifying even finishes on pit road.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me. I don't know. But anyways, in all intuition, it tells you, okay, that one of the guys that's been really, really good here, one of the guys that's dominated the series of late, which is Kevin Harvick in the number 4, he's starting on the pole. Your gut should be telling you that guy's going to dominate this race. But after their weekend performance so far, I can't unequivocally say I'm going to be playing a bunch of Kevin Harvick. Will I have exposure on him? Yeah, I'll have exposure on him. To me, you'd be an idiot not to have exposure on Kevin Harvick. But do I feel good about it? Not really. And that's the crazy part about it. Because last year we would have said, oh, yeah, I mean, he's going to lead 267 laps. He's going to lead, maybe over 200 laps. Where with this new package, I mean, I don't think so. We saw a snippet of it last week where, I mean, we had Kyle Larson who dominated, led a lot of the laps last week, but the guy still finished outside of the top 10, but still had, pretty good points based off of, he started from the 7th position, but he had a lot of laps led and fastest laps. So, and I'm right there with you. I have no confidence whatsoever in Daniel Hemrick and Austin Dillon going and out there tomorrow and just tearing up Las Vegas. And I mean, I don't see that. Well, could it happen? Yeah, anything could happen. Right. It's Vegas, baby. But will it happen? The percentages lean toward the latter of saying, no, that will not take place.
Which makes me say, like, you are either basically Harvick, Rowdy, or Hamlin. And, man, none of those guys are like, Harvick's the lap leader out of the group, but doesn't look like he can do it this week. And that just frightens me, plus his salary. And all the juicy place differential plays that you can't make when you play Harvick or Rowdy. It is a lineup conundrum this week, and it will be very interesting to see what directions people end up going.
And I think right there too, when you're talking about that, I think Denny Hamlin definitely gets way overlooked by everybody. I mean, there's a guy that could possibly get up front and he could dominate here, and you could get him at like a sub 10% ownership percentage just because of the fact that everybody's either going to Kevin Harvick it or Rowdy it or Kyle Larson starting from the 7th position, because obviously most people are not going to go Austin Dillon or Daniel Hemrick or obviously not David Ragan from the 6th position.
I mean, watch this package equalize things out, and David Ragan just dominates from the get-go. He's the man, and you're just like, wow, didn't see that one happening.
Are we back at Roush Fenway in the old number 6 UPS? I mean, I don't know. But, and you're obviously not going to go Sticky Ricky starting from the 8th position. Jimmie Johnson solely disappointed me last week after I talked him up, and whoever commented on the show and said, thanks for recommending Jimmie Johnson. I'm sorry. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to be perfect every single week. I'm just trying to help you out and give you some information to hopefully get you a good lineup and win you some money. So, I'm sorry for the Jimmie Johnson recommendation, but I hope you did more than one lineup and had, maybe one without Jimmie Johnson too on it. But, somebody else, too, that we haven't talked about that had a great week last week and lost me all their money was Joey Logano, starting from the 10th position. Yeah. I mean, there's another guy that he had the best car last week, dude. Mm-hmm. He had the best car at Atlanta, and it was right there for the taking, and his team let him down. This weekend, I mean, you got to have some exposure on Logano as well.
I think we've kind of hinted on it already, the little bit of the value flavor that we're talking about, but most of the guys that you want to play are not in the value range. Is there anyone in this value range that really interests you? To be honest, the value super scares me this week. Our normal sources of value that are actually decent cars are all overqualified. The back of the pack or the pack filler cars, they're qualified right where they should be and aren't usually ground gainers, and the math says they're not going to get enough points unless something super crazy happens wreck-wise, which I guess you could play for wrecks to happen with this new aero package. Liehr, do you see anybody that you like? The one guy that I'm even contemplating, and I can't even believe I'm saying this because of the equipment he's in, but Ross Chastain's starting dead last. He can't lose you points starting dead last. So out of the super value guys, which is 58 and below this week, I guess he's your best option. But, man, a lot of those cars scare the bejesus out of me. What about you?
Sure. No, I hear you. One thing you definitely got to be keep on the forefront of when you're making your lineups this week is Las Vegas is a fast track. It has some grip. I mean, we are going from a track where, I mean, the tires just get eaten up and eaten up and eaten up. Where here at Las Vegas, this track is fast and it has grip. So the laps are going to go tick, 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 tick. Again, we saw it a little bit today too. There were multiple and multiple and multiple cars that were laps down. I think we're going to see that tomorrow too, with cars that are going to be multiple laps down. If they are multiple laps down, they cannot make that up unless we get a caution and there's going to be, you know, they get the lucky dog. So you don't want to be betting your lineups on your guy getting the lucky dog. So really, my stance this week is I'm pretty much going to be staying away from a lot of those guys, just because of the fact that I think that most of them go, and I don't think we're going to have a big one this week. I mean, the way that this package is, yeah, they're going to be more bunched up, and yeah, we could have some accidents this weekend, especially when, you know, they could get 3 wide from the restarts. So, but my personal opinion, I'm going to be taking guys that are going to try to stay on the lead lap. So I'm looking at guys like DiBarito. Definitely my favorite guy is Chris Buescher. We're 2 races in. The kid's got 2 top 10s. We talked about him last week. We recommended him last week. He was definitely on the winning lineup last week. I mean, why not? I mean, I'm not planning on going anywhere else but sticking with the guy that's got me there so far, and that is definitely going with Chris Buescher. Hell, you could even take his teammate, and he's got a couple more spots up, but he did disappoint last week, and that was Ryan Preece at 6,100. But I'm definitely not going to be really into playing Ty Dillon starting from the 14th position. Definitely not going to take David Ragan, but his teammate.
No, I was just getting ready to ask you, what about Michael McDowell and pray for a holding pattern at 16th?
It does intrigue me this week. I do like the Michael McDowell play.
Oh, I know you so well after all these years.
I know you do. Because, I mean, it's a guy that, as long as he can, at a $5,700 price point, as long as he can maintain his top 20 position at that price point, he's worth it, dude. Yeah. He's going to pay off. So it's just hoping that he stays up in that position. So, I mean, because you're literally going from Michael McDowell starting 16th to dropping to Matt Tiff starting 35th. So that's a huge drop off in my book. So I am not going to be teeter-tottering around the rest of that.
I completely agree, and I like the Michael McDowell sort of sneaky play to hold. I think it's an interesting strategy. Just like I said, I don't like the field fillers this week, but if you're going to go that route, taking Ross Chastain just because he can't lose you points is also one that I kind of like. And I think we've already pretty much slammed home. If both of us are sending a pick to the garage, it's David Ragan. It's not that we don't like David Ragan. It's not that we don't like this race team. And it's not that we don't want them to do well. I want all of those things to happen. I just don't see a world in which he holds that 6th position. If he possibly could, or even if he goes backwards and still stays in the top 10, at 5,900, he's going to pay off. I just don't see that happening, and the risk definitely outweighs the reward, in my opinion. That's why if I had to take it going to the garage pick, I'd send Ragan. Is that your pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to roll on top of that like we've kind of a little bit already discussed, but I'm rolling number 4, Austin Dillon. I'm not doing that. Not doing Daniel Hemrick starting 5th. Not doing David Ragan starting 6th. And I'm not doing Sticky Ricky starting 8th.
Yeah, I mean, now, if I did a bunch of lineups and was going to mass enter, I might toy with a couple of the Austin Dillon Hemrick just at the off chance that you are on an island by yourself. I think that's an interesting strategy this week. I'm not sure it's going to work. I don't personally think it's going to work, but I think we're right about ownership. I think people are going to go Harvick or Rowdy or try to save more money and get more place differential with a potential leader like Keselowski or something like that.
Yeah, because that's what happened last week. Is it was all, you didn't want anybody that was a complete, there was no complete dominator. It was place differential guys that ended up leading laps. A couple laps, not 100 laps or anything like that. I mean, it's I think it's going to be somewhat of the same this weekend, especially with all of these big-time name guys starting from that 20th to 30th position.
Well, and this package primes us to have to redefine what we consider a dominator.
Right.
And I think the people that are ready to make that adjustment and are looking proactively to, with the new car package, to readjust all their information and the way they view fantasy NASCAR this year, are going to have a significant edge over the people that just are sticking with the core data that we've gone with from years past. I think you pretty much have to throw all of that out the window. This is a whole new style of racing. It's really interesting so far. I'm not going to say that I 100% like it or dislike it. Right now, I'm really enjoying it, but we'll see what happens. You know.
Well, it definitely made for some fantastic viewing last Sunday at Atlanta. You know, there was a lot of side-by-side action, and it was one of the things I liked about the package was there was nobody that completely separated themselves from everybody else. Like, the majority of it, they stayed together. You have so many cars in the field, eventually you're going to have the first place guy and the last place guy, and it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be guys that are going to get multiple laps down, and I cannot emphasize that enough, that you want to make sure that you try to get guys in your lineup that'll stay on that lead lap, so that way they can move up positions instead of having to move up laps to gain positions.
I think that pretty much wraps up as much as we can break down with the limited practices this week and the insight that we have to offer. Liehr, why don't you tell us about last week's winner, and we'll wrap up the show for this week.
Sounds good, brother. Well, definitely want to throw a shout out to D.A. Stiegels. He took down the league last week with the Chris Buescher play that we had talked about with a 56.5. He rostered Kevin Harvick starting from that 18th position with an 84.25. Then you had Daniel Hemrick. And man, I thought he was going to do well. It was in the top 10, and he blew a tire there towards the end, but with a 37. Parker Klingerman with a 18-point performance. And then you had the man, Kyle Larson, with a 89.5 performance, and Martin Truex Jr. from that 9th position to, all he needed was probably, another lap or two, and he was going to take Keselowski over. But 69 points there for that total of 354.25. So 50 points coming your way, D.A. Stiegels. And again, want to thank Andy for keeping the stats in the league. He's out west this week on a family vacation, so I ended up having to create the league this week. But make sure you guys get in it, and it's a good time and a fun time, and we'll eventually get that stuff up too on the website as well.
Yeah, we for sure want to thank him for taking time to organize the sites for the league, and wish him good times with his family and safe travels. With that, guys, we want to wish you all a wonderful fantasy weekend. Hopefully we make some each of us make some good money from Vegas this week. Liehr, go ahead and say your goodbyes, and let's get out of here.
Well, one thing, too, that I wanted to mention when we were talking about the league, one of our participants last year, and a guy that's, always participated in the show, but his name is Chris Loran. He lives up in, I believe it's South Dakota, but he and his dad his dad was known as L.M. Loran in the league, for any of you that played in there. But just wanted to let you guys know that unfortunately Chris lost his dad here towards the latter part of last year. So unfortunately that took place. But he let me know that obviously he was a big fan of the show, and he loved watching it every week, and loved playing in the league a lot. So I just want to throw a shout out there to Chris and his dad, and let him know that, obviously we're all thinking about him, and obviously it's hard to lose a loved one. And but we appreciate you guys always watching the show, and hope you have a great weekend. We're supposed to, starting here in probably about another hour, supposed to start getting snow here in Kansas City. They're calling for up to 6 inches of snow. So tomorrow's going to be a nice cozy day inside, while I watch the gods of NASCAR come down on the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and hopefully end my day with a big payday.
Right? I could use a really big payday. I know you could too. It'd be a nice treat for being snowed in. Guys, also we want to say anyone along the I-70 corridor that's supposed to get pummeled with snow this weekend, like be careful, be safe. Remember, take your time, man. Your life is not worth getting from point A to point B this week. Just be safe, guys. So with that said, guys, thanks again for tuning in. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. The comments have been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks. Any questions you have, remember to shoot them at us, as we're going to be snowed in, so we should have plenty of time to answer. Have a great week, everybody, and if I'm not winning the money or Liehr's not, I hope it's one of you guys. Later.
Let's go gambling this weekend, baby.
Yeah. Bye, guys.